gave me the good, as I said before, a good reason, a good way to look into the building. So, in the architectural brief, in the brief of the competition, and I would like to read that to you, the Tate was very clear to how to approach the building and what they were actually encouraging people, architects to do. So I will quote from my PhD, and parts of these are quotes from the competition brief. In the official version of the competition brief, the above suggestions were translated as follows. To give a Bankside, and this is a quote, a public and civil sense, it will need to be opened up with large-scale interventions within and through the structure. This requires boldness tempered by a respect for symmetry and power of Jill Scott's massive brickwork and windows. Since they saw the Bankside as an austere building designed by a distinguished architect, they recommended that the following areas may be changed. Removal of the existing windows, brick mullions on the west, north and east, and finally they encouraged the architects to have a clear vision, a bold strategy, and the courage to add to Jill Scott's impressive statement. So basically we see that they encourage architects to basically put the building apart as much as possible, and that in a way it's something that happens very often in the conservation, that conservationists are seen as those who don't want to allow any change, who are giving all the kind of restrictions to architectural freedom, and architects are those who actually want to break with the past and these very kind of banal modernist things still talking about it. And they don't want to preserve the past, they want to make something very distinguishable different. So, to see whether these things are so, or whether we can maybe learn something from architectural approach to the old for the conservationists, I start to look into these 6 finalists, and these were Herzog de Meuron, Tadao Ando, Rafael Moneo, Renzo Piano, Poljas, and Chipperfield. And maybe I will start by reading how they define their approaches, and that's what I found in their in the Tate, in the files. So Herzog de Meuron says it like this: our strategy was to accept the physical power of Bankside massive mountain-like brick building and to even enhance it rather than break it up or trying to diminish it. They were discovering step by step where we should hold back and where should we be more pushy, more aggressive. That had nothing to do with more or less respect for the existing building, but only what will be the final result. We treated the Scott building like part of our own structure, not something which is worse or different. Tadao Ando was saying like this: the basic concept, architectural fusion, encompasses the following intentions: reactivating a sense of historicity and at the same time transforming the site into a stage for new creative energy. We intended to create a space for the future that is formed by the clash between the elements from different ages, each expressing itself without losing its own singularity. Hence, the intense collision between different spaces produced by the 3 materials, brick, glass, and concrete, became a space for the 21st century made of 20th century materials. So these 2 basically are kind of arguing a certain fusion. And if you are now reading the way how they propose to achieve that, as Ando clearly said, in the materials which were different than the brick, so the brick was old, but concrete and glass were the new thing. Herzog de Meuron were having this very interesting, verbally very interesting play of using the old as almost as a kind of power to create new. But now if we are reading it in a pure architectural, tectonic and spatial terms, what they were actually proposing is keeping the structure, the spatial division of the buildings, and we can see that through the sections. And this is a turbine hall, and this is the boiler house. they kept the turbine hall as empty as it was, and they kept the boiler house as packed as it was. So basically, they were putting the galleries in these areas, whereas the turbine hall was left as a big empty hall space, which basically or either users of these type of buildings or architects consider a very very characteristic industrial space. In terms of materials and how they were proposing to combine also in structural terms old and new, basically they were working, the old existing structure was supposed to work with the new structure that they were putting in order to support all the new spaces that they were building in. And they were all kind of, they were also keeping the chimney as the most important symbol of the whole, of an industrial building. So in that sense, we see that there is no much fight between the old and new, and basically in terms of spatial organization and division, they kept what was there. Now, Moneo and Renzo Piano. The appearance, Moneo first, the appearance of the intrinsic economic value of the Bankside power station means that this proposal will maintain as much as possible of the existing fabric without altering the iconographic impact on the Thames embankment. In Renzo Piano, any intervention outside will look ridiculous in terms of scale. Industrial buildings have raw, sincere, unpretentious spaces which cannot easily be intimidated by art. And again, here we see that in terms of this division, in terms of spatial division inside, they did the same with the previous, or they proposed the same with, as the previous competitors. And in terms of materiality, Piano actually introduced a totally new structure, and the old structure was deprived of any function, so but he proposed to leave it. So in that way, it stayed basically almost as a kind of decoration there. Whereas Moneo also, in material terms, tried to work with the old, so that the old would keep the old and the new would have a new structure. But he, as we see, he's claiming of doing absolutely nothing from the inside, from the outside, apart from adding this part, which basically, from a pedestrian point of view, I think would change the image and the experience of the building very much once we are approaching it over the Millennium Bridge. But then again, inside they were again respecting, both of them, they were respecting the original